I am continuing my cyanotype experimental sessions today, using mostly the color black this time, which always comes out in a different tone, employing watercolor paper as well as real photo paper. All of these you can see me create today. Hi folks, I'm continuing my cyanotype project. This is part 3 with the Solarfast products that came in various colors. And today it's the color black. You will see that it takes quite some experimenting with exposure time and the thickness of the layer to get nice and crisp images. I will combine stencils and negative images that are printed on foils. I am beginning with preparing 2 canvas boards that I had, trying to get them to really suck in the Solarfast emulsion, as that is crucial for the success of the projecting with the UV lights. The first I am sanding with sandpaper to get a part of the sealing medium off and hopefully get through to the canvas directly. On the second, I am painting 2 layers of watercolor foundation on and hope that this will not wash away during the rinsing process. As you will see, the projecting onto these canvas boards does not work so well in both cases. So later I'm working with watercolor paper and real photo paper, old one. This is my workspace, having the UV lights mounted to my ring light. When I project, I shield my and my dog's eyes from the UV light with a cloth that I pull over the ring lights. If you want to see more about this, go to part 2 of this video. Here is the link. This step of the process I will not show you here. I will only tell you how many minutes I have projected. This is a photo that I cyanotyped a couple of years ago with the more complicated 2-ingredient cyanotype emulsion in blue. And I want to transfer this onto the canvas boards with a Solarfast solution that doesn't need any preparing or so. You just paint it on, and while it is still wet, you put the negative photo on, and if you want a stencil or so, and start the UV lamps. You can hardly see that it is even a black solution, but I think I made only 1 layer and 2 would be better. So I place on the negative photo on the foil, and then the glass. Yes, here it comes, the stencil. And the stencil is like not large enough for this photo. But I have to say the graphic design that you get with the rims of the stencil, I like them too. So I'm putting on the UV light over it for about, I think, 6 or 8 minutes. And then afterwards you have to wash it. You can do it in a basin like this, or you can do it you can rinse it under the running water tap. And this is what it came out like. Quite a faint print. And I'm not sure if it's the canvas board itself that made the print so faint, or if it's that I didn't put enough of the color on. So I'm trying the other one, this time with a stronger layer. And by the way, I'm using a bristle brush that is pretty dry, so you can see the marks that the emulsion makes on the ends. That comes to a very interesting outcome, as you'll see later. So for a change, I'm using another stencil, taking care that the eyes are visible well. And note that I'm putting the stencil over the glass so that it has a certain distance to the image, because I want the stencil to be a little bit out of focus, and that's how you do it. you need a glass between it. So I exposed that for, again, 8 or 9 minutes, I think. And it looks all right now, but I'm actually drying it, hoping that more of the solution will stick to it. But after rinsing, it looks like this, and it's also very faint and even worse. Although I made a thicker layer, and maybe it's the exposure time I have to make longer. This is another one of my old cyanotype prints I made with an old cow skull photo, and I'm trying to reproduce that with some cling foil. And I've done that before, but for some reason this time doesn't really show. The exposure time was a little longer, maybe 12 minutes, but I like this one really well. I think it's a crisp image, and I like the look at the rims, what the brush did there. I really like this one, and it's going to be my favorite one in the end when I work it out, actually. Of course, you're saying now, Tina and her skull obsessions. Yeah, I guess you're right. So the next one, preparing 2 layers. And it's really important with the Solarfast solution that the solution is still wet on the paper. You have to watch out for that. And I think everything that is dried will show brown and not black. Actually, there's no black at all. It's just a dark blue, like, yeah, very dark blue. It's quite nice, I think, but it's not black. Oh, by the way, I didn't use my bristle brush anymore. I use that foam brush, which also makes nice patterns when you brush it out at the rim, as you can see. And it has, what's better with the foam brush, it takes the color and it gives it off at one bit at a time. So it's more, well, as you can see here, it's more controllable. And I'm trying to, in this case, I'm trying to make a pattern that will hopefully show later by leaving more of the emulsion at the edges of the paper. I'm adding some baby powder here, which is always a nice effect. And putting that portrait on again, and the glass. And that stencil I used with the cow's skull. And see how that works. Watercolor paper. Exposure time about 10 minutes. You can see here that the glass on those thick layers of emulsion gave me quite a bit of decalcomania, which I so love. So I'm trying to dry that to keep it as an effect. And actually a lot of this will be coming off when I rinse it, but actually something's gonna stay. While that is drying, I'm turning to my canvas board again, the one, I think it was the first one I made. And I'm just trying to print over it again. See how that works. So I painted a thicker layer this time. And I'm trying to place this where the first imprint was made, then the glass, and then also the stencil again, and it's quite difficult to get it right where it was before. So the result may be a little bit out of focus. We'll see. This was 10 minutes again, I think, and it's much better. You see down there, this was the decalcomania that was left and dried on this image, on the negative foil that made a shadow. Very interesting. You always learn new things here. So this is much better. I can work this out, and I'm satisfied. But I'm turning to paper again, and this time I dug up an old pressed flower picture along with the 60s frames, the wooden frames, and Yeah, you can see it's really old, and it's just these petals don't go off the original paper. So I'm gonna pose it like this, and you see my beloved skull lace down there. And I cut the paper to the size of this frame, so it will fit in nicely. So I painted on the rather thick layer with my foam brushes, with a little bit of a jagged edge down there and on the top. I'm putting on the skull lace. Skull lace is so great. And the old flowers from the 60s. It's so amazing. They still work. And you better don't ask me what kind of symbol this is, to put skulls underneath the flowers, and the flowers growing out of those heads. Yeah, I don't know. I extended the exposing to 14 minutes now, and this is how it looks after I washed it, and it's wonderful. It's just right. It's still not black. It is just a dark blue. So next I'm going to work with photographic paper. And this one is also from the 60s or so, and it still works wonderfully. So I have no idea. I've never learned the technique of photography and developing prints. So we'll see. This is a photo paper sheet that is smaller than A4. So that's a bummer. And this is like some old prospect, also from the 60s, I believe. Some old German prospect about, what are these things called? Zangen. I don't know, I have to look that up. And I combine it with a skull lace too. Oh, this is, I developed it a little bit with a UV light, sorry. And just to test if it would react on its own. And it does. It's very light though. And that was just a little fun on the side, but back to reality here. As you can see, this layer is smudgy because there's some undried rests of other paint in the glass, and I like that. And I'm pressing, while it's still very wet, I'm pressing a glass on to get the decalcomania effect. And we'll see how that works. This is actually a negative of a watercolor painting that I painted. I'll show you the original painting here. I turned it to black and white in Photoshop and then printed it on foil in black and white. And no, Beverly, this is not an owl. It's a galah. That's a parrot that only lives in Australia, I believe. And I just took this photo from my painting. So I put one glass over the actual sheet, and then the negative photo, and then another glass. And this is what it comes out like, and it's kind of out of focus. That's because the image was over a glass of sheet, so it had a distance to the sheet. That was not a good idea, but
and the solution is
some like
finally resembling
something like black. And I think the pieces that were dry before, they turn out brown here, which is very strange. I don't know why that happened, but yeah, exposure time was about 14 minutes, I believe. And this is already the next one after having the UV light on for 14 minutes again. And I put the negative image straight onto the paper. So that's why it's not out of focus. And just some random bamboo leaves. And they are very light, and I like that. And I'm not going to work this one out, I think. It's just perfect as it is. And I want to say at this point that the photo paper really amazes me. There is a crispy sharpness to the image that is just not possible with any structured normal paper. So I'm going on with the photo paper. I think I love it. I think I'm in love. So although I know it's not really showing in the end, I'm still loving to make dirty layers here. And I spritzed some water on it to see how that would react. And I put this wonderful cloth on it that I bought. I used it in another video. I can't think, well, I use it all the time. This is very fast. During the having the UV lights on, I put this Christmas decoration there, the wooden stuff. And so when I revealed this, I put the Christmas decoration on once again because the stuff was still wet, and I UV'd it again. So you can tell that where the wood was, that there was nothing more developing, but the rest around the trees are developing further, so they're getting darker. And this one didn't turn out so well, but the idea I think is great. So you can do double exposures, right one after another. And I did this again with the Christmas decoration and these funny paper shreds. And note here, this is a still. This is what was left on the on the paper underneath the photo paper. So the result of this session is so naya, because the paper shreds don't show as well as I was hoping. I kind of like the out of focusness of the trees. And I'm going back to that smeared paper that again has decalcomania, which never shows. But I want to put on another layer on this. This is quite chaotic. It's typical of the more you do and mix and never clean your material, the more interesting the background is. So the cyanotype is no exception from that rule. It's getting more and more interesting by the time. I took that parrot painting again. Exposure time roughly 14 minutes again. Nothing but the parrot this time, because the structure is interesting enough. And I guess everything that's brown here, that's the area that was totally blocked off by that negative because it was so black around the parrot. And this is then, in that case, it becomes brown and the rest of the parrot is black. That's very interesting. So this kind of negative would work the best, I think, because you have brown and dark blue. And oh, I forgot to say that this is watercolor paper again. Switching to the photo paper again. Thick layer as usual. Glass on it. And the trees. The deer never showed. And yeah, I haven't given up on those paper shreds. I'm putting another glass on them to make them more flat, hoping that this will show more. Yeah, but then 14 minutes exposure, roughly. And the paper shreds don't do apart from, you see some northern lights back there. Maybe that's it. God, I hope you're still with me. I'm gibbering away here. I hope everything is understandable. If not, please do ask me in the comment section. I'll answer any question, even if it takes me a couple of days. So, photo paper again, my favorite cloth on it, and my favorite skull lace. Exposure time, 14 minutes. Maybe it was 15 or 16 here. This is how it looks after I rinsed it. And although the skulls don't really show, I love it. I love the design of this page. I think I really want to do something with this. Look at the crisp texture that cloth gave me on the photo paper. Amazing. And I think we're nearing black here. So having said that, the black emulsion is almost empty. So this won't be going on long before I have to switch to another color. And I want to combine the cloth with the portrait. And I'm spraying some water in it because I know it'll still work when you water it down a little bit. Actually, you could save emulsion by watering it down. It's better because it stays wet longer, so it's working even better. Yeah, so this is very fluid. Still trying to make an interesting rim. And I'm placing on the cloth and the photo at the same time, which will turn out being a mistake, as you'll see in a minute. Exposure time is about 15 minutes. And when I'm taking the glass off, and you can tell that there is a face behind it. This is after I've watched it. And you could support it by working it out. But I want to do a different projection with the UV lights by having different times for the face and the cloth. So I have to add green now, and I hope there's some black still in the foam brush, but I don't think so. Yeah, sorry, the black is gone. So these are all going to be green. And I'm putting on only the photo first, putting the UV lights on for about 8 minutes. And then in the dark, I'm secretly adding the cloth. And I go for another 4 to 5 minutes, I think. And I've also added another glass plate to push the cloth down. And the reveal shows that this is a very good face portrait exposure, but you hardly see anything of the cloth. This is not what I wanted. It is a very nice portrait, and I'm gonna make something with it, but it's not what I wanted, so I have to try again. And see, there still was some black in it. So, same, but different. Exposing the portrait first, but this time only like 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, and then coming in with the cloth. So we have a longer time for the cloth texture to show. And this one turned out just as I wanted it. Look at that. It's very green yellowish, which is not such a great color, but this is just what I wanted. This is the perfect exposure time. So whatever you do, you have to experiment with the exposure time. That's the deal. I want to try the same with the cow's skull. I don't know if it's going to be any good because the cow's skull is a little too large for this photo paper. As you see here, it barely fits in, but it's worth a try. So I'm doing the same thing, 4 minutes for the skull and another at least 8 minutes for the cloth. And ta-da! That crispness of the photo. Wow, the photo paper is just amazing. I have to get larger sheets. And it's also amazing because it's from the 60s or so, or from the 70s. I was actually hoping for some failures of that paper, but it still works perfectly. Now this is interesting. This is a circuit board, Platina it's called in German. And I always wanted to try how much light goes to it. And I don't know if anything will show at all. So I'm using the green again and giving it a good layer. Oh, yeah, I'm adding some of the red. Maybe that would be an interesting mixture. But it looks like the red is really going under in the green here, so So I think I wasted it. Anyhow, I'm putting the circuit board over it and some glass over it. And wow, this is after exposure time 12 minutes. And then I'm adding, because I think it's still working, it's still a little wet, I'm adding the parrot and go for another 8 minutes. Yeah, this is so funny. Isn't it great? I hate the color, but this is so funny. This circuit board was really what I was hoping for. And don't ask me why a parrot is in front of a circuit board. Maybe it's not a parrot, but an AI robot. Phew, that was a lot today. Next time you'll see me work out some of these prints, and but not all of them. I'll also show you how to build a box for your UV light, as promised, and I'll come to the conclusion if I like the Solarfast or not so much. See you then. Bye.